I appreciate everyone diving in. This is great. We're gonna get started. We have some great content today about increasing your funnel. We'll just take a quick moment just to kind of set the tone. Those of you that we've met before, you know who I am. But those of you we haven't met before, my name is Vince Carone. I'm the VP of Success here at Cultivate Advisors. Really ensuring that that our clients are satisfied with what we do, with what we bring to the table, and ensuring that we work together and partner up to take our experiences together to the next level. I met a majority of you last year at Catapult, where we told you quite simply that you are the best, and we really mean that. We still mean that, and I hear that echoed back from a lot of our clients who like to taunt me with that message as the year has gone on. But it's great that that's stuck in your head, because I really want you to know that you are truly awesome, and you really make this an enjoyable company to be a part of. So thank you for your partnership here. We have some great content today. Those of you that have been on these before, you know why you're here, you know what you're getting out of this, but I want to kind of set the tone back and say the reason that we have these events is really to bring our community together to advance your business skill set surrounding an isolated topic. So each month we pick a different topic and really zero in and focus on that. And walking out of these sessions, we want to make sure that you have two takeaways from either the webinar portion or the roundtable portion that really help you, personally, business-wise, professionally, to start advancing some skill sets. And we'll make sure we give you a platform to put your takeaways into before we leave today. So our quick agenda today is the webinar portion is going to be about 50 minutes long. I'm just going to do a quick kickoff, give some community updates, set some expectations here, and then I'm going to turn it over to our skill experts, Casey and Conrad, who've got a great format to bring to you today with some great content. After that, I'll come back on and we're going to talk about our breakout rooms and the roundtables. I'll set some expectations around those to make sure we're crystal clear as to how those are going to work. And then we're going to break out by size. The breakouts are going to last about 30 minutes. You'll meet with a roundtable with some provided questions that we give to you. And then we're gonna send you over to our community platform for takeaways and a quick wrap up. So as far as the webinar platform is concerned, some quick expectations around this type of format. Utilize the chat feature that you're already using to discuss and share best practices, comment on some of the items you're hearing. We like to promote that engagement along the way. It helps us as we're starting to train to be able to read the chat and kind of tailor some of the content even along the way, even in flight here. We may launch polls or have some action items along the way to capture your engagement and get a pulse on the group. And we're going to have some resource options post-webinar as well to make sure that you have some additional learning and materials here. So I'm going to kick things off with just some community updates here. I'm going to move rather quickly through this piece here. I just want to show you a couple high-level pieces that we've added here. So first and foremost, talking about some upcoming events here. I have to give a quick shout out. All of our events this year are sponsored by JustWorks. They're a premier platform to support all of your HR needs, and we're one of their biggest fans. We encourage you to go check them out. Make sure you do that. As far as the next big event we have is our next CEO webinar roundtable that's coming July 15th, centered around effective problem solving. There's problems everywhere you look, and if you don't have an effective method around it, they can create a lot of stress. So it's going to be more of a mid-year review, like how has this crisis affected your goals, priority management, what fires are worth putting out, what you should focus on, and then some critical thinking in your business and how to be flexible in that critical thinking. So when you walk out of that webinar, you will understand how to evaluate your goals up to that point, how to prioritize the most important goals for your business, and how to stay agile in uncertain times. So it's a great webinar. Take a quick note right now. July 15th, let's get that on your calendar. Catapult 2020. So we will have a formal announcement that will go out to all of our clients soon, but with everything with COVID here, we've finally agreed on what to do moving forward. We are going to continue forward with our conference for November 4th through 6th in Chicago. But in addition to that, we are also going to run simultaneously a virtual conference as well as another live conference at the same time in Vancouver. So you have an option. You can either attend in person, either Chicago or Vancouver, or you can attend virtually if you're either in those markets or out of those markets, whatever you're comfortable with. We're going to have similar content, similar speakers at both of the live events that funnel virtually as well. And we're going to have some more details that'll come out in the next few weeks to make sure that logistics are clear around it. but just want to give you a heads up for those of you that are planning around it. Let's move into platform engagement here and just talk about the Cultivate community that we've started created. We've launched this in April. We've seen some feedback along the way, and I just kind of want to talk about some of the pivots that we've had. So here's how social sites have grown. MySpace came around years ago, and that was a place to go find friends. Then Facebook took it to the next level and said, okay, let's encourage everybody to go talk about and post their day to day and what they're doing. Then Instagram came about and said, we want to show everybody what we ate today. Take a picture and show us all. And all these sites started to incorporate each of these elements along the way. Yeah, well, I'm trying to get everybody in my top 8. Each of these elements each of these sites started to incorporate these elements along the way, and it became all these platforms that we had to keep up with each day. And we felt that we had to adapt and pivot and be a part of all of these. And we wanted to follow suit. So we went into Facebook and we launched a group to pull all of these components together for the Cultivate Advisors community. And the problem that we identified very quickly is that we just didn't want to have another social site that you had to find a way to fit into your day that just became another thing that you had to do. We wanted to actually create a community where you can connect with like-minded business owners to get your questions answered, get your problems solved, and help develop your skills along the way. So we scrapped this and we moved to our communities. So we've actually just done a quick reshaping of our community page. So we've simplified the navigation up at the top now, so it's very easy. We've put a sidebar with all of the components and all of your options here. And we launched what we've called communities, which is similar to a group. So when you go into your Cultivate community, you land on this page now, and we've simplified this so you can see your feed, your discussions, and you can see all of the components right here. The big pieces within discussions is now a part of the community. We got rid of forms, we've moved discussions in. Discussions are now a part of your world with both visibility and alertability, which means you can be notified and summarized on what's in these discussions to increase engagement along the way. And this also allows you to go back and search and find relevant items to you, versus with the other social sites we're doing, where you get to see everything from everybody. We want to tailor this to you so you get what you need out of this on an ongoing basis. So it sits in front of you and it aggregates into your feed. So if you look at my feed here, you can see that it actually pulls in the discussions and shows me this in my feed, so I can actually see all of my items all at once. You could also choose to subscribe to specific discussions and start your own along the way. So it makes it nice and easy, and it tailors it to you. And you get a daily summary right now as to what's going on in your world. And you can go into the email options and you can change that to whatever time frame you want. But right now you're all set up to get a daily summary. So now you're not missing anything that you want to be a part of. So as far as engagement goes, some people get fulfillment from getting answers. Some people get fulfillment from giving answers. The opportunity exists for both within our platform. So some quick tips on how you can engage: like and comment on the posts that you like. That creates the community aspect. Tag appropriate individuals, tag people, find people that are in your industry, in your network, and tag them along the way when you're making a post. When you walk out of your roundtable discussions today, make sure you go into the community platform and you can connect with the people that you were in the round table with. That's going to help as you start to build that trust with other individuals, that you can lean on them for further engagement along the way. And then ask a question in the community to get what you need out of it. As far as our future, what's coming up here, we're working on the ability for you to build your own communities based on your industry and your specific needs and likes. We're working on the ability for you to have your own courses that you can create, adding your team members into the community, and a variety of other options, vendor connecting with discounts and promotions that are exclusive for Cultivate members. That's all what's coming up in the future. So with that being said, I want to dive in today. I want to invite Casey Clark, our CEO, to come up. He's going to kick things off. We have a lot of business items to talk to you about, so I'm going to turn it over to Casey, and I'm going to let him take over here and walk through some great skill content for us.
Hey, everybody. I really appreciate you walking through the updates, and very, very excited for the updates that we have on the platform. There's been a lot of hard work behind it. And yes, I know it can feel like another platform, but I think when you start to realize what this is going to become, it should help you run the business by the time we're done with this long term. So stick with us on that. So let's get into it. I'm going to be bringing up Conrad Kozuch here in just a moment to help kind of with me as a guest facilitator. You've probably noticed I started bringing in a lot more of my team. The reality is a lot of the team members at Cultivate are smarter than I am in many areas of the business. So I like to pull those folks in for their expertise. And let's face it, when we talk about putting more leads and getting more sales, Conrad's great at it. He's so good that we actually promoted him from advisor to take over our marketing, and he's really helped take us to the next level. So I'm excited for him to share some of those tips as we get in today. Friendly reminder, I always set the same expectations, so bear with me if you've heard them, but just a few quick things. I'm going to hit content from all different stages today, so just keep that in mind. I'm talking from solopreneurs up to fully built strategists. We have all different types of businesses we work with, so keep in mind some of this content is going to be directed towards multiple different strategies and stages. Be selfish. This is not going to be rocket scientists. The types of information you're going to hear. Slow down and get the 1 or 2 points you need to hear. That's ultimately our goal, is to move you up one stair. You know this graduated learning, I share it every time. Jump one stair today. We could talk through some of what we're going to chat about for days. This is about giving a high level to take those next things and tailor it when you sit down and work with your advisor. So here's what we're going to walk through today. We're going to talk about marketing types and tactics, how to put more leads in the funnel. We're going to talk about how to reset your messaging and how to actually stand out. There's so much noise right now, especially right now. We've really got to push that with everything going on in 2020. We want to help you understand your cost of acquisition. Right now, a lot of people are holding off on wanting to invest in marketing. It's actually the perfect time. We'll explain why that is. And then last but not least, we're going to take a deep dive into Facebook ads. A lot of our clients do Facebook ads. A lot of our clients have thought about doing Facebook ads. So we realized that, and we wanted to bring some content forward to help support you in that adventure. So let's do the quick chat, and I want to get everybody engaged. What holds you back in generating the amount of leads you need to hit your sales goal? I would love for you to jump in the chat for us. What is the biggest thing that holds you back from getting the amount of leads you need? So I see time is the first big answer. Awesome. Psychology, that's interesting. Organization, yeah, that makes sense. Money, not surprised to see a lot of time and money. We're going to be talking about that. Not having the right network. That's. I appreciate the vulnerability there, Aaron. Just know-how. How do I go get these leads? Not having it organized with a process or system. These are great. Fear of growth. That's interesting. Yeah, these are some really, really great thoughts here in terms of what's holding it back. And it's real, right? We all experience this feeling of we need more leads, and it just seems like we should cancel everything else we're doing and just go get the leads, because at the end of the day, without leads, how could you ever generate more sales? That's what we experience, because I'm going to oversimplify sales. There's only 2 things you can do to get more revenue, in my experience. 1, increase conversion. 2, get more leads. You could argue, well, you could create new products, get new verticals, sure, but that would therefore just say get more leads. That's a tactic to getting more leads. You're either going to increase the conversion to get to more of those leads that you have closed, or you're going to take, or traffic if you're e-commerce, or you're going to go get more leads. So today we're going to focus on getting more leads, putting more leads into the funnel that then you can convert. And I just want to kind of go a high level overview to kind of ease into these topics today. As we talk about these different types of marketing, there's really 2 types of ways to get leads. It's direct marketing or it's branded marketing. And I want you to think about it this way. Direct marketing, to oversimplify, would be to say it's just really creating clear demand for your product or service that you can track now. Meaning direct, I can push it out and I can see if it worked right now. Brand marketing is a much longer term. It's a longer investment. It's about putting brand and building up the asset over time that attracts customers to you. So those are the 2 very clear differences. For most small businesses on the call right now, you should be focused on direct marketing. Some of the larger businesses, maybe if you're getting in the systemizer influencer level, you're starting to probably pay more attention to brand marketing. So just be conscious of what stage you're in and where you need to focus. For the purposes of today, we're going to spend a lot of time on the direct marketing side with a few elements of the brand marketing throughout. And I want to bring some attention to this icon I have on the right here. If you want to see marketing in the simplest form, it's really simple. Get the right target audience, come up with the tactics you're going to use, figure out how you're going to measure it, and then write have the right message that goes to that audience. And notice the arrows just keep spinning. You have to keep optimizing over time, no matter if this is going out to networking events, doing speaking events, doing virtual cocktail happy hours, which is now the new craze, right? No matter what environment you're in, if it's on website, if it's mobile, or if it's, in person, this is all accurate. The message, the tactic, and making sure you know your audience, this all ties into a beautiful marketing engine that becomes sustainable for scalability. And I have to imagine many of you are shaking your heads going, I really want that. I just don't know how to get it. And that's a common problem that small business owners experience. So we're not going to talk a ton about tactics until you get into your groups. We find that that's more of a small group discussion. It'd be impossible for me to share really relevant information for all the different industries and all the different tactics that are out there. So what I'm going to do is I am going to slow down and just give a few of our favorite tactics that we love to see, depending on the type of business you have. So I knew that people were probably going to say time and money were the root issues that were holding back. So I wanted to slow that down and connect some dots here. If you scale through time and effort, then you are focusing on free direct marketing tactics. And a lot of you might be there right now, and that's okay. You're choosing to say, I can invest my time, I cannot invest money. The question is what is that time worth? So it's still not technically free. I want to make sure we slow that down. But if you're looking for some of those, here's some of our favorite tactics. LinkedIn outreach if you're a B2B business, creating backlinks with content partners and SEO. That can be a great strategy for online businesses. Strategic partnerships, going and getting other people to resell you and go out and push you. These are things that you can do for free, and I'm sure a lot of you are focused on these tactics. The paid tactics side, if we move to that side, this is where it's more about scaling through the cost of acquisition instead of time. So again, if you can put money behind this engine, this is most likely going to go much faster than free tactics. Keep that in mind, but it'll take a little longer to get that built and set up. So our favorite tactics, again, these aren't all of them. There's tons and tons of tactics, but we love Facebook advertising. We love Google AdWords for this, and we'd love to set up sponsorships. So just another form of those partnerships where you can get direct access to lists and other things that you can push out to. So these are more of the paid tactics versus those are the free tactics. Again, sharing that for the purpose of when you get into your small groups, you're going to get to maybe talk a bit further about the tactics you're using and share some best practices, to figure out what you can steal. One of the best strategies of growing a business is R&D, rob and duplicate. So let's get into the messaging side. How do you stand out? This is what I want to slow down and make sure we're really clear on, because there's no point to put any money or any effort into the marketing if you don't know how to message. And this is where I want to bring Conrad. If you wouldn't mind jumping up on the video, because I'm going to bring him in. I'm going to still run quite a bit of the content here, but I'm going to ask Conrad to take us a little deeper than even I know how to go in. So Conrad, welcome. Thanks for taking the time with us. Obviously, Conrad, I have a tremendous amount of respect for you in terms of what you can accomplish, considering, came to you with the company and said, I need you to run the marketing. For people who don't maybe know Conrad's story, I just want to share a couple quick highlights of why you're going to want to listen to him and this content that he's helped me create today. One, so he's managed over 50 million in advertising in the past decade. He's put 50 million into online advertising. Definitely something we want to listen to. Second, he's generated clients in excess of over 200 million in revenue over the last decade. He's currently actively managing 8 million a year in advertising budgets with current clients and for Cultivate Advisors. He's previously owned companies that have sold to LinkedIn, Verizon, Facebook. He's got a killer background. I went and got my best. So I hope you all really sit back and soak this in, and just know, I know we're going to hit more high level because it's a 1 hour call before we break out. We're going to have a chance at the end for you to throw any specific questions you have for me and Conrad and I will go make additional content around those questions and bring it back on the platform. So be thinking about some questions as we go through this today, now that we're finally getting into the content. So let's start talking about messaging. Conrad, I'll just kind of speak to a few of these first before I bring you in on the deeper stuff. The big thing is, are you not standing out, right? There's a lot of noise in the marketplace. It can be hard to promote without feeling too salesy. I'm sure some of you feel that way. I know I felt that way. The best product does not always win right now. That's a reality. The best product does not always win. Sometimes it's about who can push the most advertising or who can stand out the most, although it may not be the best quality product. So success is going to come down to your messaging. How do you attract people to that messaging? And if you're thinking, well, I don't know if I have an effective messaging. Well, if you feel like you have a lack of revenue, if you feel like you don't know where the revenue comes from, or when prospects meet you, if it's a B2B or B2C business in person, if they meet you and they're confused about what you do, or if you're online, you have a lot of cart abandonment, this is a good sign that you may have a massive messaging issue or a persona issue. If you hear a lot of choosing competitors over you, it just means they're messaging themselves better. It doesn't mean they're necessarily the better competitor. So messaging is more important than I feel like a lot of people give credit to, which is why I want to bring this up. So I've worked with Conrad enough now to know he's got this really simple messaging framework. And Conrad, I would love for you just to jump in and share with us, help us walk through what are these three kind of areas of framework that you like to follow?
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Casey. And it really is as effective as just 3 steps. We really don't need to overcomplicate it. And it really starts with identifying the problem, like truly identifying the problem that our prospects are facing. 2, it's being able to clearly enunciate and communicate what we do to solve that. Then 3, ultimately, it's about showing them how it's going to be better before and after they meet you, if they choose to go with you, and how their life's going to change for the better. If you just do those 3 things and you do them well, you'll be effective.
I love it. I love it. And I think that, if we dive this maybe a little deeper than that, let's go actually into the problem. You've always talked to me about these 3 levels you have to hit with your messaging. And I to kind of steal the show, I went and grabbed, some content I've seen you do for our own company to share examples of this. But could you give people your perspective on this outside, inside, and beliefs when you want to just state the problem?
Yeah, so in stating the problem, a lot of us, it's easy to just state kind of the outside belief. And so the outside is basically, I have this or I don't have it. So they have your service or not. It's very service level. The next layer deeper is inside. So this is how that problem makes that person feel. And that emotion creates the motion that gets them to move and to buy or act. And then ultimately 3 is the belief. So this is a belief either they hold or you hold of why is it so important to solve this and why should it be different? Or why is it wrong that they're facing this problem? They're doing all these other things. And so when we look at problems, we have these 3 layers just to make sure we're hitting it from every angle that we should.
Yeah, well, and what I like about this is that it's you have to make sure people are going to view this differently than others, right? So what's going to connect to them to get them to trigger to go, yes, that's my problem. That's ultimately what you're trying to do. You just want them to acknowledge when they read that messaging, yes, that is my problem. I actually pulled some examples I've seen you do in the past on this. So for Cultivate, this is Cultivate specifically, but as I'm going through this, everybody, think about what yours are, right? So the outside version of stating the problem is to say, do you have a plan? That's something we talk a lot about. On the inside, though, we go, well, are you confident in the direction of your business? We start to create doubt. We start to create question. That's how we kind of help use our messaging to show people what we do. So our beliefs then, if people are more motivated by beliefs at that time, Conrad and the team have wrote some great content like, we believe every committed entrepreneur needs a partner and a plan to succeed. So I want to give everybody a moment, Conrad. We'll just pause for a second. Everybody write these 3 down. You all know I love to do workshops along the way. I want you to leave with this access to be able to use this in format. Outside, inside, and beliefs. How could you state your problem with those 3 themes? Making sure it speaks to the outside, make sure it speaks to the inside, and then make sure it speaks to their belief system and what you believe. We'll just give everybody just a moment, write those 3 and write down a few bullet points. And as always, if folks have already written this out quickly or they feel like they're pretty good at this, feel free to share in the chat. It's always so helpful for people to see examples. That's what we pride ourselves on, is trying to make it tangible. So again, if you're just catching up, I'm asking you to write down outside, inside beliefs and try to state your problem in those 3 formats. And again, the bigger learning is that you're able to do this post today, but I like to just make sure we try to concrete as quick as we can. All right, I'm going to keep us moving. So we've stated now what is the problem. What's really important is you do not state the product or service first. That has to come second, right? We have to state the problem. That is what is attractive. I know that's one of the biggest things you taught me, Conrad. I fell in that endless trap most entrepreneurs do of wanting to go out to the world and say, this is what we do. And I'm sure a lot of you can shake your heads and go, yep, I like to say that too. It's because we're egocentric entrepreneurs, not all of us, but some of us, and that's just generally how we operate. But now that I've said the problem, they know they've connected to that problem. You then have to figure out your way to share your product and service the right way. Walk me through. You were giving me some really cool content when we were prepping for this. Help me understand what you mean by this 3-step plan.
Yeah, and just to highlight that point, it's as similar as when you meet someone and the first thing they do is talk about themselves over and over and over again. You just kind of zone out. So that's why we want to lead with the problem, make sure they're listening, because a lot of people don't listen until they realize there's a problem. And so as we get to explaining our product and service, it's all about clarity of what you do. very easy to get kind of wordy with like how you help people, but we just want to state what you do in this frame. So a lot of people resonate with a 3-step plan. We do A, B, and C, and that's the next logical steps to get you to the result. And then as you're creating the messaging at this point, you have 2 levers. You have empathy, which is showing that you understand their problems and what they're working on. And then you have authority. This is showing that you can be the one to solve that problem. And you could kind of look at these as a continuum. You start a lot of the relationships with empathy. You seek understanding and learning about what they're going through. And in doing this, you're building trust. So the more trust you build, the more empathy you have, and they understand that you understand. Well, now you can start introducing more authority because they're going to listen to you. And so it's kind of, as you deepen the relationship, they're more open to listening to you. So you could tell them about what you can do at that point, and they'll be receptive to it.
That's awesome. So you've got to state the problem in multiple scenarios. Then you come to share your product or service. Usually a 3-step plan is attractive based on the trends right now, but make sure the message incorporates empathy so they know they can relate, and make sure you bring the authority so they know they can trust the competency, right? Again,
Exactly.
just to share everybody some examples, if you're like, this is great, Casey, Conrad, but I need an example. Here's what it would look like. Language for us on a 3-step plan. And again, as I'm going through these, think about what would your messaging be. That's the point of this. The 3-step plan is to say, well, we will help you identify your business stage. Our chosen advisor will develop a clear plan, and we will then partner through strategy and accountability to hit your vision for the company. That is how we're sharing truly the solution of our product and service. We're not explaining that we're just advisors. That doesn't help. That doesn't get people to click. That doesn't get people to buy and say, put their hand up to learn more. Because now you create curiosity. We then will go a step further to use empathy. We understand the challenge it takes to growing a business, and more so understand how it can feel to do it alone. Then showing, look, we're in your shoes. We do get you. That's what builds more of that trust to warm up to make the trigger. Lastly, we bring authority. In 2019, the average client that had worked with us for 12 months or more grew their profit by 100%, 8% year over year. Our approach works. Again, we're confident. We know this works. That is how you bring that forward for them to help really understand the narrative of why they need to sign up to learn more with you, or to go through that checkout process, depending on the type of business you have. So again, I just want to slow down, give everybody just a moment, write down what would be your 3-step plan. Just a couple bullets. You don't need to make it sound pretty. You're not going to have enough time to do that. What are the ways you can connect on empathy? And then what are also the ways you can connect on authority? And again, just for purposes of workshop, just going to give everybody just a second to get some things out of their head so they don't lose this. Jenna, yes, the slides will be available, just so you know. You can always do a rewatch on the platform. We'll explain that at the end of the conference, or the end of the webinar. Thanks for asking that. And again, if anybody has an example they want to share, feel free to write an example of how they share authority or how they use empathy or their 3-step plan. Again, the more examples we get, usually the better. You'll have a chance to do it in your cohorts. But for purposes of time, I'm going to keep moving us. You know my style. I like to move quick. My goal is to give you as much impact as I possibly can in this short amount of time. Let's go to the third step of your process here, Conrad, that I've obviously really bought into. I've taught this to a lot of my clients. You now want to state the results and call to action. So we have shared clearly their problems so they relate. We've helped them understand how we provide a solution in terms of what our product or service is. Now we have to state the result and the call to action. Walk us through. You gave me this awesome salt and pepper analogy earlier, so I wanted to make sure that got connected. Help us understand, what's the best way to set this up?
Yeah, so after we've done those 2 things, the big thing here is the results. We need to connect it to how it's going to change them. So the big thing here is helping them visualize the before and after. So before working with you, this is the problem. It doesn't feel good. It's doing all these things. After, where's that going to take them? Are they going to get more time to spend with their family? Are they going to make more profit to go on vacation? Are they going to be able to hire the next employee? Like, what are they going to do? Help paint that picture of their day changing after you go and achieve what you set out to do. The other thing here is the proper dose of fear and opportunity. That's where we got these salt and pepper. Just like salt and pepper, they're good additions to a dish. Too much of one, too much of the other, it ruins it. So one of the big things we see, though, is like opportunity. A lot of people are quick to talk about, right? It's fun to talk about what could be and all this, but you need to let people know the cost of inaction. What happens if you don't do anything? Because we like to say, like, if you can't fail, it doesn't count. So let them know what happens if nothing changes, or else they may just zone out and think you're just kind of blue sky, everything's going to be all right, when that's not the reality. And of course, something you've probably heard many times if you're working with us is sell to the next step. Just get them to take the next logical step in that sales process. If it's B2B and you got a lead from a Facebook ad, well, don't try to sell them the whole thing right there. Just get them on a discovery call. If it's B2C and it's e-commerce and they bought a product, well, have them buy another product or not, like a different product that's related. They're in the buying mindset, and the next logical step is to do one of those two things. So make sure they're moving forward still.
Yeah, the worst thing of messaging is when people want to get married, right? I don't want to marry you yet. I just want to date. Let me just go on a first date with you, learn a little bit more, make it the lowest level of barrier to entry, sell the next step. That's crucial. I want to hit on something. I'm seeing some conversations going on in the chat, and I just want to bring this forward. So people are asking, like, do you use this in ad format? You know, Craig was saying, like, yeah, where do you message? Where's this messaging applied? Here's the coolest part of this. It actually applies everywhere. In your sales process, everywhere that you market, when you go to a networking event, when you pitch yourself for the first time, how you organize your thoughts and share this content, if it's just on a landing page, to selling a product on a platform, it's actually, you know, to an advert, it's all actually the same. It just might be different, I'll call it size of text or amount of content you have to share for that media format. So just start to get in your head, this is a form of messaging that really connects all the way through as you navigate this. I really want to hit one other big point that I think was super crucial that you brought up here, Conrad, that visualization. People, I think, miss the clarity that if people cannot visualize themselves working with you, they most likely will not sign up to explore working with you. So the more you can help them visualize it, the better, or inverse, right? If you can't help them visualize, then I love that little point you made there where it's like, well, then flip them the other way. Get them to think about how bad their life or how bad that situation will be without you or without their product in that world. And I think that's what really kind of helps get to the next level and get people to take the conversion. So again, let's just share some clear examples. I went and pulled this from what I've seen Conrad do on the visualization piece. An entrepreneur who doubles their profit will be able to hire the next batch of employees to create a more hands-off business to provide more sustainability and work-life balance. It helps them start to visualize what they will get to experience. A lot of people are motivated from fear, especially right now. So the business will run you versus you running the business. Instead, take control and work on the business. This is some really cool content I've seen in the past. And then sell the next step. It's simple. Get started by having a quick, no obligation call to see if we have an advisor who would work perfect for you. So again, not to gloat about our content. The intention of this is to go, here are just some examples. Slow down, now create your examples of visualization, what you're going to bring in for either fear or opportunity, and lastly, how you're going to sell the next step. Again, I want to give everybody just a quick moment to slow down and write down just a couple bullets, like, what could I visualize towards? How do I use fear? How do I use opportunity? How do I sell the next step? It also gives Conrad and I a chance to do a quick, very fast water break. So give everybody just a quick second. And again, just friendly reminder, feel free to share if you have great examples of this. It helps. I saw a couple really cool examples come out. Would love to see other people post that. I think it's super helpful for people. If you're struggling on the visualization, by the way, or you're struggling on identifying any of this messaging, go talk to your past customers. Use this format to ask questions, and it will help you understand how your end user, your end customer actually thinks about your product or service, so you can speak to them faster. 9 out of 10 times, in my opinion, I've experienced this myself, I can empathize with this, what we think as owners is in our head of how we have to deliver our message is not actually how it is perceived from the end customer. Try to remember that as you try to create more scalability through your messaging. So to recap this on this messaging framework, you've got the problem, the product and service, and then you list the results and the call to action. Every message you deliver, from when you introduce yourself, from when you go to create an ad, when you send a cold email, when you send out a message to somebody that you're connected with on LinkedIn, all of this connects. Even just an online platform of purchase, it might just be really tiny and really short. You may only get a few words for each one. Nonetheless, this is a fantastic framework to follow that is fairly universal across any product or service. So I hope this brought some value of how you could utilize this. And I see a couple of really cool examples coming in. So thanks for sharing that, everybody. So let's assume your messaging is on point, because if you don't have good messaging, you're going to really, really struggle with the rest of what we're going to walk through today. So start there. Get your messaging on lock. Again, get feedback from peers in this community. You can do that in our roundtables or on the platform, but also get feedback from your customers. But how much, if you wanted to actually navigate to spending on more leads, because I saw a majority of people when we checked in, you all picked time. Majority of you. Some people said money, some others had other reasons, but almost all of you said time. It was such a massive majority. Then I don't know if you understand the cost of acquisition and how to start to invest and spend on leads. And again, it could just be the know-how. I want to share a story about Sam Walton. For those that don't know, Sam Walton was the founder of Walmart. You could be a fan of Walmart, you could not. No matter what, you got to acknowledge they built a massive empire. But he was asked, several years back, he was asked, what do you think about a recession? He was asked this question. His response was really simple. I thought about it and I decided not to participate. Think about that for a moment. Now, some people think we're headed for a recession or we're in one. We don't know yet, right? It's been a hard year. We don't know what to expect fully in terms of what's going to come out over the next 6 months with the pandemic. But what we do know is that the market may feel a little different for some. Some that means it's really up right now. Others may feel like it's really hard in my industry for whatever reason. That's fair. We're all in different industries. We're all in different situations. But what's not fair is to go, well, if there is a downturn in that market, should we actually be holding off on market share growth? It's actually the perfect time. I want to give you a couple other examples where this really hit. Anybody ever heard of Snap, Crackle, and Pop? Maybe it's more of a US and Canada thing, but Kellogg, they crushed market share through the 80s and 90s. That's when I was growing up and when I was cognitive of the marketing. When I hear that, I know exactly what that is, right? Snap, Crackle, Pop. I see people already jumping in on it. Well, that's really interesting. You know that, but did you know that 10 years prior to that, Post, the brand Post, not Kellogg, actually had all the market share. Kellogg flipped it in the Great Depression. That's actually how they got that marketing to where they became the leader. Now, these are big companies. I realize that, but I'm sharing them because I know more people will resonate with them. Think about small companies. We're all small companies. We are more agile. We are able to scale. If big brands with those resources can create that, we absolutely can create that with our agileness. So I want you to start to shift your paradigm today to understand how important market share growth is during this current time. And when you approach paid tactics, the company that can spend the most money to acquire a customer wins. Not the company that can spend the most amount of money total. It's just to each customer is who's going to win that customer. So you need to know your numbers to figure out what you can invest first. And you have to start to get in this mindset. This is a strategic investment. It is not short term. So if you need really short term turn on, you're not going to find it through paid tactics. It generally does not turn on very quickly. It takes time, like any other marketing tactic. I think people think I invested, I should get the money. Just like your time, you invest your time, it takes a while and then the funnel returns. No difference on the paid tactic. I need to make sure that's clear. Because as I break this down, this is something I love as numbers. I know you all know that. I'm very data oriented. Customer acquisition cost is the crucial one. And I'm going to give this in the complex version first through Conrad, and then I'm going to simplify it. Conrad, help back me up here. There's usually two ways they might look at this depending on your industry. Can you break down the two ways they're going to figure out their cost, their customer acquisition cost?
Yeah, so the two ways we generally see this play out is like lead generation. So if you're capturing leads and then there's still a sales process that follows on, you would use the first one. If you're able to directly get a sale from advertising or marketing, such as like an e-commerce platform or online store, you would use the bottom one. The simplest way to look at this is it's essentially your cost per lead or the cost per someone putting something on the purchase page of your e-commerce. You divide that by your conversion rate, and that gives you the average cost for acquiring that customer. And so in doing this, you know kind of how much do I have to pay to get one customer back in return. And from there, it opens up a lot of options, which will show you how you could use it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Riva, I see your comment here. I don't actually think you disagree with me. I think we're just saying it in different ways. How we're viewing this is to say the most amount of money of your margin you can spend towards acquisition, which comes down to the effectiveness, because then it's how much you can get. And that's what this next slide shows. I'm going to break it down a little simpler than what you just said. You gave us an equation on the back end, more retro to pull and run. Mm-hmm. Conrad, I'm going to turn this more now to the actual front engine. Here's the simple way to get started in case you're trying to figure this out. Take your revenue per client. I encourage you to follow along with me and do this exercise. Take the average revenue per client. what is the average revenue per client? And I want you to times that by your net margin percentage. Again, you may not know what your final net margin percentage is. If you don't, definitely work with your advisor on that. You need to get that in check very quickly. But that ultimately is going to tell you what your profit per customer is. This is so crucially important to know that data point. So again, a simple example, $100 times 25% margin is going to give you a $25 profit per customer. Now we know. Now, can you spend all $25 on that acquisition? No, you wouldn't make any money. But you at least now know where the break even is. And sometimes when you get started, you have to try to break even on acquisition to learn those online spaces or those other paid tactics. And that's why it's so crucial to know this number. So I talk a lot with our clients about what is your acquisition break even? Do you know that number? You should never go over under any circumstance if it's about giving discounts or, in this case, how much you can spend to acquire that person. Now let's talk about what's in this acquisition. It's not just the marketing spend. It's the salespeople's time. It's the marketing people's time. It's your time. You have to tie all that in so that, if, Riva, what you're talking about, that effectiveness, super important. It has to still match within that and not go over that break even. Ultimately, you want to then work to optimize to get it as low as possible to get the return.
Okay, I see something good here. If I can just jump in.
Yeah, please.
You got a comment about recurring revenue models for the business and paying over time, so it's not just the one-time sale.
Yeah.
So this is great. So what you want to do is you should always strive, if you have a recurring model, to break even on the front end. And the front end in this sense is just acquiring them for your break even or below it, because everything above that is profit. And a lot of times we hear that like the profit is made on the back end. McDonald's and Starbucks are good examples of this. They'll sell you a burger, they'll sell you fries, but they're going to make a lot more money on some of the upsells. They'll get you on the upsells with the fries and the drinks as opposed to the burger. So they got you in for the burger, but then they added on and made all their profit through that. So it's another way to look at this as well.
No, it's great. I mean, I have my own personal experience of that, Conrad. When I ran my painting business, when I first started, I would invest a ton of money into direct mail, right? Spend thousands of dollars on direct mail. And I would only end up getting like 10 contracts. And when you ran it, you're like, I'm not making any money. Problem was I got to put a sign in the yard. I got to paint the house. I got to ask the neighbors for the referral. I then got to use that as a picture, before and after picture. And that helped me ultimately get more sales. And when I got to their houses, I upsold the garage, the decks, all the other power washing services. And that's where I made massive margin. And I figured that out very young. So I was able to acquire leads much faster. So it's exactly what you're sharing. It's understanding that sometimes you will break even. A lot of companies call this the loss leaders. At the end of the day, it's just know your data before you get into this game of getting into the paid marketing tactics. Now, once you get to the budget planning, this is just our experience. And again, I just asked Conrad, what has he generally seen on average? And a lot of our advisors were chiming in as well when we got into the discussion randomly. Cold traffic, you should see about 75% of your budget allocated, new to your brand. Just don't forget the retargeting and other options that you have on 25%. Again, talk to your advisors of what are your tactics for cold, what are your tactics for warm. Being able to separate that, I think, is really important, and understanding where to allocate the budgets. I think that's super, super crucial. Conrad, anything else you would share to touch on this?
No, that's a good way of how you're allocating it. For purposes of time, let's keep it simple, Darren. We'll go into the Facebook ads.
Well, let's get into the fun one. So again, some of you maybe have never done Facebook ads. Some of you are really successful at Facebook ads. Some of you have thought about doing it, you haven't. Some of you will never do Facebook ads due to the nature of your business, and you're going, I don't need to hear this. I caution you to go, no, listen, even if you're in that situation, because maybe your next business, you'll need it. We're gonna give you a framework. Again, how we approach this is always from a place of giving you a system that is replicatable across businesses. So just look at it for the system that we're getting ready to provide. This is where I had to help Conrad. He eventually came, he brought me about 6 pages worth of details of everything you need to know about Facebook ads since I picked this one tactic. And I said, we don't have that space. You're gonna have to get this down to a few slides. So we shrunk it. So just know we'll go really, really deep on some follow-up after this. Here's why I think you should start with Facebook ads and why I chose it as a topic for us to discuss today. You can start cheaper than most other platforms, and it can still scale big. It's cost effective versus other platforms. It's the best demographic analysis for both B2B and B2C, I find. And then lastly, my favorite is that you have, as a small business without brand acknowledgement and exposure yet, you're allowed to disrupt people versus hoping they search for you or search for your service. You get to plant the seed that they need you, which I find is much more crucial as a small business to be able to drive. So nonetheless, it allows us to be able to move forward. And as a small business, we continue to see the most success from this. Now, you have to know what you're doing, right? Which is why we're going to give you this framework, because you could spend a lot of money and not get a lot of results. And you have to really be tailored in your approach. And that's what we're going to break down. The first lesson that we have to teach is start small and scale big. You taught me this, Conrad, several years ago when we started our campaigns at Cultivate. Can you explain what you taught me then of what it means to really start small and protect yourself so you don't just spend a lot of money with no return?
Yeah, we could get really excited and go, yeah, we're going to go do Facebook ads and put a budget of $200-300 a day. But if we don't know why we're testing, we don't have a framework for evaluating if that's a success, it's basically throwing money into a black hole. So we want to start small and scale up appropriately. And we want to increase our budgets by no more than 30%. Doing it any more than that triggers something in the back end of Facebook that you're growing too fast, ironically enough. The other thing here is like A/B testing. So for some of you that are doing it, great. For those of you that do not know, it's just creating two versions of an ad. Ad A may have a different image than ad B. You give it to Facebook, they help you optimize it with the massive amount of data they have, and they bring you back a winner. And so this is how you can get more bang for your buck for every single dollar you spend. You do this enough times and you're going to create a feedback loop that really improves the overall effectiveness of your marketing. And in terms of losers and winners, now that you know your cost per acquisition, as well as how much you can spend, you're going to be able to base what is doing well for your business based on those two numbers. If it's above what you can spend, you probably want to look at getting rid of it. If it's below, you probably want to look at how you could funnel more money to it.
Yeah, you just connected what I wanted to make sure everybody heard. That's why you have to know that cost of profit per client, because you have to know what you stand to make. So you're always dropping the losers that are not keeping up with that. So it doesn't mean you keep investing in Facebook ads. It's more you continue to test until you find the ad that works, and then you let it take off. That's how you approach Facebook ads. And there's something that you didn't slow down enough that I want to hit on that I think is really important. If you're going to invest less than $50 a day into this tactic, don't do it. You're not going to hit enough, right, for the algorithm. I'm probably botching this here, Conrad, but can you speak to that just real quick? Like, why do you have to have a certain minimum to really, grab attention of Facebook and actually get meaningful data?
Yeah, we like to use $50 a day. It's just enough that if you're going to do a couple of campaigns we recommend, that you actually get enough data to then let Facebook actually optimize everything and go beyond it. If it's too low, you're just not going to have enough information to make any good decisions. And when we have such limited data and we start extrapolating that, we actually run into the error of like using data that isn't statistically significant, and essentially we're just making bad decisions. So we need to accumulate enough conversions to know that this will scale and I could invest in this with confidence. So we recommend that as a starting point.
And again, right, this is dependent on your business. We're going to give you some other ideas. I see a couple of really good questions about just like, wait a minute, does it depend on the industry? Should it be more as a minimum? Sure. But what we found is we haven't seen a lot of success with people who start less than 50 in almost every industry. Is it foolproof? No, but is it hit majority? It does. But again, you may have to have even a higher minimum than that. And I see a lot of people asking about how many days, at least enough days to get meaningful data to really see, is it a loser, is it a winner? Because it does take a little bit for that algorithm to kick. We always know when we increase our budgets or when we start a campaign, it usually takes at least 2 weeks before we see anything meaningful to understand what it looks like. Again, this is our perspective. Yeah. There's a lot of philosophies. Anything else you want to add on that, Conrad?
Yeah, there's one number everyone should be aware of, and we're going to talk about how to get here, is you want to have enough budget to get 50 leads, 50, in a 7-day period. So whatever that is, now that we know our numbers, you can kind of calculate for yourself. But essentially that allows Facebook to totally maximize the data they have and optimize your campaign for its best success.
Awesome. Great. Let's keep going for purpose of time here. Again, a lot of you may be going, I got to hire this rescuer. When people go to hire, I just find for digital agencies, I know I can already tell there's a few on the call today because I can see your wealth of knowledge that you're sharing in the chat. Thank you for that. But it's important that you don't go hire a digital agency for the purpose of rescuing you. That's not what their service does. And it frustrates me when businesses go, I need leads, so I'll hire this person and I expect results tomorrow. It doesn't work like that. Wish it did. So just understand what you're looking to do, and that also you need to understand that you know your business and end customer the best. Don't rely on others to know your end customer and user to make sure you're hitting the right persona and the right demographics. So we're going to walk you through this framework here to wrap up today, but I just want to be clear. we're still encourage you working with the digital agency. Because you learn this does not mean you should necessarily run your Facebook ads. It's not necessarily a good use of your time. I don't run them. It's not a good use of my time as the owner of the business. However, you still need to know what levers to look for and what to ask about to give yourself the chance of the best success. So keep that in your brain. If you're going, well, I've hired somebody, you should still listen to this. I think you'll find a lot of value. So I pulled this out. Like I said, he had these 6 pages of notes, everybody. I said, Conrad, we got to get this tightened. I said, I got to get this down to 4. And this is what I was able to validate with him. You've got to prioritize your audience. You've got to identify your objective. You're going to pick your campaign, and you're going to track your results. These are the levers that can dictate success. Now, we can go so much further than this, but for purposes of time of just getting things moving, these are the 4 we chose to hit on. So, Conrad, let me turn it back to you. How important is it to prioritize your audience? What do you mean when you say that?
Yeah, so after you know what your audience is, and you're going to use Facebook advertising, you have some really cool options. So you could actually target people that are similar to people you already have either in your CRM or who have visited your site. So you could create a custom audience that Facebook then matches to all the different people it has on Facebook to find similar people of that, to then allow you to run your ads towards those similar people. So we always recommend starting with those, and they're called lookalike lists. And starting from top down is the highest quality to still good quality, but you want to start above there. Current clients, past clients, any prospects you have. And for those of you doing e-commerce, this would be any visitors you have, anybody who's been on the product page, and anybody that's added it to cart but didn't check out even. The second is interest. So this is based on what do they like? Do they like business? Do they like flowers? Do they like gardening? Do they like restaurants? Do they like travel? You could target a scary amount of things on Facebook, and this would be the next step in doing that. And lastly, it would be working in some other things like groups and affiliations that they're a part of.
Well, and if you're similar to a big business, right, you could also just say if they like this person or they like this type of business, there's a really good chance they're going to like us, right? And there's ways to really get dedicated. I think where, I see some people saying, hey, I've invested in this before, it didn't quite work. Just so you all know, I can totally agree. It took me 4 tries at going after investments to Facebook until I finally just let Conrad run and I stopped getting involved and said, hey, look, we got to figure this thing out. And now it's our largest lead generation tactic, just so everybody knows. So we know this works. Now, again, different businesses, different industries. I understand that, but we've been able to turn this on for a lot of clients. So if this is something you're interested in, please bring this up to your advisor. But to validate what you're sharing here, Conrad, these lookalike kind of groups is really important, because if you don't upload what your people look like, you could just get an assortment of all over the map and you won't get the engagement you want. This is the first thing people usually screw up. Let's go to the second lever. This seems really simple to me, but you talked to me about identifying your objective. Tell me more about what you mean by this.
Yeah, in a simple sense, when you select your objective on Facebook or any of these direct marketing campaigns, it should always be driving towards a conversion. And so when you go on Facebook, your only objective should be conversion focused. You shouldn't be seeking vanity metrics like likes, views, impressions, reach, fans. Those are great, but they don't drive sales in a direct manner like conversions do. And so you guys could read what a Facebook rep has told us multiple times, and that you guys all know, we all know, Facebook can be a time waster, and people get interested with good marketing, they'll click on it, but the intent to follow through isn't there. So let Facebook optimize towards those people that are actually going to fully engage and do what you want them to do.
Totally. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what platform. This is a good message, right? If just always run your data on conversion as your output. Don't get excited about vanity of how many likes or shares. Get excited about what converts. I see some really cool stuff. I'm just going to hit a few things that I see. Some people are asking, like, well, how do you define it as Facebook ads is working? Again, cost of acquisition is being met, and we're grabbing more profit from our customers by getting more customers in faster. So cost of acquisition, we're not breaking that, and we're bringing people in at a much more rapid speed. That's how we see that. I see also another little battle about LinkedIn or Facebook. I find it great in terms of what's better. Again, we're not saying Facebook is better than any other platform. We're just saying we think it's a good place to start for those, and we know a lot of our clients are on it. So I just want to make sure I clear that up. I think there's a time and place for all the platforms. Let's talk about how to pick your campaign type. Sebastian, you asked a great question. Listen up, because this is where we're going to answer it for you. Help us walk us through what are the different campaign types you can choose, Conrad, in terms of when you get on Facebook.
Yeah, so really, let's keep it simple. There's only 3 you should be looking at, and all of these have a conversion objective, so they're all going to go to a certain place. The simplest one is an image ad. So all you do is upload an image, write some ad copy, and you're off to the races. So this sends someone to your website, so you got to have your checkout card or your form ready to go. If you don't have that, or you want something that's easier to get up to speed, go with a lead generation campaign. This is really good for B2B. Essentially, Facebook provides you with a form. They fill it out on Facebook. You get the leads. It's very simple. And then another image or creative type that's working very well are video ads. People love video. They interact. This is going to send them also to your webpage. So make sure you have all that set up before you get started with that one.
Which one would you recommend generally if people were getting started? Which would be the one you go, this is the one to start with?
I would start image ads. You really don't need to. You could scale those up to a few $1,000s a day easily
before you ever jump to anything else, right? That's really the place to start. You know, and some people are asking like, well, how much Facebook, you know, background content do I need? Not a lot, because when you go to your website to fill out, a lot of people don't even go to your page. You know, personally, they just engage with your ads. So just keep that in mind if that's something that's scaring you. Tell us more about tracking results. This is that fourth final thing I wanted to have you hit on. Help us understand, what are the three, make it simple for us. What do we have to track if we're going to start Facebook ads, or if we have Facebook ads, confirm that we're tracking these things?
Yeah, so these are the three things you definitely need to actually validate if you're doing well. The Facebook pixel is just a little piece of code that you put on your website. It allows it to interact with Facebook to tell Facebook, these ads are doing this. So are they visiting but not checking out, or are they checking out? You're going to learn that from there. The other one is just having UTM codes on your URLs for Google Analytics. This connects with your website traffic, and overall it's a best practice just to know how things are performing. And lastly, you want to be able to connect both of those in an ideal world to your CRM to validate that those are actually turning into revenue. On one end, you can see Facebook generating very inexpensive leads, but they could not be converting at all, whereas these that are a little more expensive actually convert at a much higher rate. So this all goes back to your true customer acquisition cost and how much profit you're making to track and analyze these things to create some insights for your business.
What I love and what you taught me was like, stop looking. Facebook's helpful, and the data that they give you is helpful to understand, to work out the kinks. But ultimately, if you're on conversion, it's, are they coming over to the site? Okay, great. Are they converting, which Google will tell you? And then lastly, are they turning into revenue through your CRM? Right? We had that experience where we were generating a lot of leads, but none of them were actually turning into revenue. So it looked great in terms of, we just said, well, we think they're converting. But when we started to track by source through our sales process, it totally changed the game when we realized what the output was. So look, this is hard. This is high level stuff, really deep stuff, sorry, we're getting into. Most people will skip this. However, I would encourage you, if you're not ready to go learn these three or have an agency help you with these three, do not invest in Facebook ads. I'm sharing that openly with you, because nobody that is scaled skips this. Just try to remember that as we go through this. If you want to learn past 101 on Facebook stuff, obviously we don't have time to hit everything. Facebook Blueprint has some awesome training on it. Ad Espresso is a great software that gives you great data and gives you some additional resources. PPC Hero, if you really want to go deep and read a blog and really get some cool content, if you're maybe a little more advanced, these are some great resources we like. If you want to go further on messaging, check out StoryBrand. They have a really cool course that walks you through how to build your messaging. It's similar to what we shared, but it goes much further in depth. So these are just some really cool tools and resources you can use. Here's what we covered today. It took us a little longer than we expected, but that's okay. We talked about the types and tactics for more leads. Again, that's going to be more one-on-one. We talked messaging, how to stand out. We talked understanding your cost of acquisition, and then we did a little deeper dive on Facebook ads, and I could already tell everybody was chomping at the bit to talk about all these other tactics. Here's what I want you to understand. You're going to have time for that. We're going to be capturing what did you learn along the way. As we finish out the presentation, we just have a few more slides for Vince and I before we break into groups. But go ahead and jump into chat. Like, share what did you learn before we throw you into the breakouts to continue this conversation, because I think what you're going to see when you get in the breakouts is you get to go talk about all these great conversations that are happening in the chat right now and really get into more of a deeper dive to figure out what's best for you. So start sharing some of that learning along the way, if you don't mind, in the chat while we keep wrapping up. If we can go deeper, get some of these questions on the discussion boards. Feel free to ask more questions in the chat. We always go back and read the chats after. And Conrad and I will get together and we'll put some more content together. If there's specific things you want asked, don't be afraid to throw that here or throw that on the platform in the discussions. We will read it and we will do our best to bring some of that content forward, as long as we know there's an interest to learn about it. So here's my last slide before I hand it back to Vince. Roundtable discussions. Vince is going to walk you through how to do the breakouts in just a second. Here's what we're looking for you to do. Do a 1-minute share on you. Don't be too selfish, right? Share your location, share who you are and what your business does. Just quickly introduce yourself. That way you can get into the conversation. Share maybe your biggest learning you captured to really understand what resonated. That'll help you all understand what you want to talk about. And here are some really good discussion points. I think the first one I would hit is tactics. What are the most common tactics you're all using for marketing? And what can you learn from those other tactics they're doing, and how can you cross that into your industry or your business? Are they direct? Are they branding tactics? How much does it cost? What are the best practices? I think you guys can get in some really cool conversations around that. And then on the messaging side, how can you communicate more clear to your prospects? Some of these folks may be your prospects, potential prospects. Tell them that, share what your messaging has been, and see what they like about your pitch or your messaging to see how you can really alter that. If you shift one thing that gets another 5% of people attracted to you when you're out there pushing marketing, it's a win. This is worth the energy and the time. Lastly, don't be afraid to just ask any question miscellaneously you want to bring up to the group if you think it's a good group discussion. So I just launched a PDF that you can download. You can screenshot this roundtable discussion. This is how you're going to have it to know what discussion, so you can all stay organized as you go through this breakout when we move to that here in a little bit. So I see most people, we've got about 50% of the audience is already downloaded. So I would definitely encourage you to download that or screenshot this slide. I'm getting ready to move on. That way you know what the discussions are when we break out into the roundtables. And I'm going to let Vince take it from here. Vince, if you want to come on and jump back in and lead us to the promised land here and get us into our breakout rooms, that'd be fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody, and thanks, Conrad.
All right. So can you hear me? Perfect. So just diving back in here, just a couple quick closing thoughts here. Make sure you add these items to your roadmap and continue working on them with your advisor and get some extra help on that. If you want to watch this webinar again later this week, we will actually have it up in our courses on our community. And that's where you can go see all of our past webinars to get a refresher on some of this content. And if you want some additional training, make sure you go in. We have a great prescriptive selling course right now on sales that's in there. Go into the courses in the community and look through some of this training and get it. Make sure when you're in our community, you also take advantage of our perks, referring a member, using PI assessments for your team or others, or adding other users to our community at this point. And then just a quick reminder, make sure you get July 15th on your calendar. Take a note right now. We're going to talk about problem solving. So for roundtables here, we're going to just set a couple quick expectations, ask the questions you need to get answers to, validate what other people are hearing, what other people are saying to ensure that you've heard it correctly. It helps, in the discussion piece. Share without bias, be open to other points of view and being respectful of other people's feelings or situations or their opinions. And then take notes so you can take action. Don't walk away with nothing. Make sure you get something out of it. So for some high-level instruction on how to do this, the executive team right now is actually going to leave right now to go start their Zoom rooms. So when you leave here and choose one, they're already there waiting for you. Here's how you can go choose your stage when we switch the screen here. You will go to the hustler room if you are a solopreneur that has no full-time employees. That will be that you will go to the hustler breakout room. If you have a few employees reporting to you, you will go to the experimenter breakout room. If you have 5 or more employees directly reporting into you, you will go to the visionary breakout room. And if you've recently hired leaders or managers, you will go to the systemizer breakout room. And if you lead through a formal leadership team, you'll go to the influencer breakout room. And the systemizer and influencer room are combined together. So when we flip the screen here, you're going to go find your breakout. You're going to click that pop-up below, select your business stage. You will join your breakout, and your Zoom room leader will walk you through how to go break up. So click on the button that just popped up right now to find your stage. I see you guys are clicking on that. Any questions, we'll wait here. You can feel free to ask us any questions along the way